Imagine meeting a man named Jack. Jack was 25 years old when he landed his first real job. The paycheck wasn't huge, but to him, it felt like the beginning of his future. His parents gave him the same advice they'd heard from their parents. Work hard, save your money, stay out of debt, put your savings in the bank. It sounded simple, it sounded responsible, so that's exactly what Jack did. Every payday, he transferred money into his savings account. When his friends bought new cars, Jack kept his old one. When they upgraded their phones, Jack kept his. When they spent thousands on vacations, Jack stayed home and watched his savings grow. Year after year, Jack did everything people said a responsible person should do. Then one morning, 35 years later, Jack retired. He opened his bank account. Just over $420,000. He smiled. I made it. Or at least that's what he thought. A week later, Jack walked into a grocery store. The same groceries he'd been buying for years suddenly cost almost twice as much. The car he'd always wanted now seemed completely out of reach. His electricity bill kept climbing. His insurance premium had jumped again. Even dinner at his favorite restaurant had become something he thought twice about. Jack stared at his bank balance again. $420,000. The number hadn't changed, so why did it suddenly feel like he had less money than ever before? Jack hadn't been robbed, he hadn't made reckless investments, he hadn't gambled his retirement away. So what happened? The answer had been quietly stealing from him for decades, and he never even noticed. It was called inflation. But that word never really captured what it did to Jack, because inflation didn't look like a thief. There were no broken doors, no alarms going off, no sudden moment where everything disappeared. Instead, it worked quietly. A few cents here, a few dollars there, spread across decades, until the life Jack thought he had secured slowly shifted out of reach. Not all at once, but just enough that he never questioned it. Jack sat back in his chair that night. For the first time, he did something he hadn't done in years. He calculated. Not his savings, but his life. The house he wanted to downsize into now costs nearly double what he expected. The healthcare costs he ignored during his working years suddenly became impossible to avoid. Even basic comfort wasn't basic anymore. And then it hit him. He hadn't just saved money. He had saved a number. But life doesn't run on numbers. It runs on purchasing power. And purchasing power had been slipping away the entire time. Jack whispered to himself, so what was the point of saving it all? And that's where most people think the story ends. But it doesn't. Because Jack made a second discovery, one that hurt even more than inflation itself. He realized something had been happening the entire time he was being responsible. While his money sat still, other people's money was moving, growing, compounding, working in businesses, markets, and assets that didn't just store value, they multiplied it. Jack had done what he was told. Save. Wait. Be safe. But safety without growth meant you were trusting time to stay still. And time never stays still. So what should Jack have done instead? Not everything differently, just one thing. He needed a system where his money didn't just sit. It needed to move with the world instead of falling behind it. Not gambling, not chasing trends, but participating in growth. So that when prices rise, his wealth rises too. That's the difference between feeling secure and actually being secure.